this NFL Week 9 player props and pregame show edition of the NFL Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog has added Pick'em Scorchers where you can win 100x. Plus, every Sunday, they're giving away $100,000. Use promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $500. We're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for player props, parlays, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. Plus, the MMA Gambling Podcast just launched their own YouTube channel. To celebrate, we're giving away a MMA Gambling Podcast hoodie. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/MMA hoodie for all the details. Welcome, everyone, to the NFL Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Sunday, NFL Week 8, and we are going to go through our pregame show like we usually do. We'll go through all the latest injury news. We'll give you our player props, and maybe put together a touchdown parlay at the end of the show. But today, I got the birthday boy with me. It's his birthday weekend. It's the Hakeem Olajuwon year for him. For you that are not NBA fans, it's Walter Payton year for my guy Chris B. Capin. Chris, how's it going, my man? How's another trip around the sun feeling for you?
Hey, it's amazing, man. It's amazing to be here. Amazing. Just to be on this podcast as well. We do the other podcasts together, but to be on the gambling podcast in the morning, Sunday morning, right before the action gets away, man, it's absolutely amazing. So I'm excited for that. I think it's lots of ways for us to make some money today. So let's get into it, man. I'm ready to bring it with you. Let's go.
Yeah, a little different setting for me. I had a wedding this weekend, so I sound a little, I guess tired is the word. Got home like at 1 o'clock in the morning last night. Had to feed the little one at 3. But hey, we're still up here grinding out our player props and best bets for the for NFL Week 8. So if I do have a little echo or I sound a little bit different, apologies for that. But Chris, man, let's just dive right into it. Look, NFL Week 8 is here. We're about a little over 3 hours, a little less than 3 hours, I have to say, from opening kickoff for Week 8, at least for the Sunday games. A lot of intriguing matchups. So let's get to the first one here. Right now, I see the Los Angeles Rams. They are going to be in Dallas to take on the Dallas Cowboys. Currently, the line is sitting at 6.5 in favor of the Dallas Cowboys. Totals at 45.5. I know you and I discussed and Rada discussed the player props for this game. I believe you were on Tony Pollard. And do you have a side or a total that you like for this game?
Not really a side or a total. I'm never into the business of laying points with the Dallas Cowboys. This is not something I want to do with my money. Yeah, so not really interested in this side. I do feel like this is a game that could potentially creep over the total. Typically, when Dallas are favorites, in my estimation, they are a team that you can kind of they don't cover because they end up giving up more points. So you expect the defense to be great. Then it typically kind of slows down just a tad bit. You also look. I mean, it's not like they're playing against an offense that can't score the ball. We know that the Rams with Stafford, they're gonna sling that ball. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. So if they score points, it could be plentiful. But what I did play in this game, and like we talked about, was Tony Pollard, man. I think you want to kind of keep Dak upright, and you don't want him to have to play against this front seven of the Los Angeles Rams here. So I gave out all those numbers earlier. I see his rushing. Let me just see if I can find a more accurate number. I know I played it over 65.5 at minus 120 on points bet for Tony Pollard to go over 65.5 rush yards. Just because, like I said,
8.5 now.
So now it's up 3 yards. I still like that number. I think he goes. It's a buy low spot like we talked about at the beginning of the show that we did on Thursday. So if I'm playing anything in this game, I think you got to look at Tony Pollard. I know that the Rams they have been rushing the ball a little bit better, and they'll need to in this spot. So potentially maybe some rush attempts because we don't expect that. If in my estimation, if the Rams will keep the game close, it will be because of their defense. Them kind of slowing down. That Dallas Cowboy offense that can be a little stagnant at times. They struggle to score the ball. We know Dak isn't the most consistent guy, so I guess I would probably look towards maybe some rush props as well. Not sure how you want to play that on the Rams side. Those are my thoughts for the game. Strongest look would be Tony Pollard over his 68.5 now rush attempts. What you think about this one?
Yeah, I like it. I think last week was really telling for this Los Angeles Rams team. Favored by what, 3.5 points last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers went into LA, took care of business there, and got the W. But I think that we're all kind of waiting out for that breakout game from Tony Pollard, because there's a lot of hype that we talked about on the podcast of him this season being a fantasy darling for a lot of these, obviously, for the Cowboys, and if you did draft him on your fantasy team. So hopefully this is the game that he breaks out. He gets over this rushing yards number. And I think that sneakily, you're right, that this could probably get over the total in this game for the Cowboys and the Rams. Only significant injury in this game I'm seeing was Tyron Smith, offensive tackle for the Dallas Cowboys. He's dealing with a neck injury. He's officially listed as questionable for this game against the Rams. Next game on the board here, Chris, we'll go over to a battle of AFC East teams. We've got the New England Patriots. They are down in South Beach to take on the Miami Dolphins. Currently, the line is sitting at 8, total of 46.5. Did have some weather in this game. Let's see here. So we have gusts of winds of 28 miles per hour, and it feels like 99 degrees down there in South Beach. So a typical day, I guess we can say, down there in South Beach. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams. Start with the road team here, the New England Patriots. They are going to be pretty clean injury report. I know they were dealing with some injuries in the secondary, and I know they traded for J.C. Jackson, but I think they're still struggling a bit in that secondary. So, I think the Miami Dolphins may be able to take advantage of that, especially with the speed that they have with their wide receivers in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Ray Mostert was listed as questionable for much of the week with an ankle injury, but he is expected to play here today for the Miami Dolphins. Jalen Ramsey, I know, to get activated off of the IR, but isn't just quite ready yet to get back on the playing field. And we're still waiting for the status of Xavier Howard, cornerback for the Miami Dolphins. But anything that you're looking at in this game as far as side total or player props here, Chris?
Just kind of hearing you talk about the weather, it makes me want to look towards reception props. We know that first of all, just taking back what we saw last week, Miami lost on the road as a 2.5 point dog last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. So it feels like a bounce back spot. So you get New England coming off a win, an outright win as an 8.5 point dog last week. I think they were against the Buffalo Bills.
Right.
Not the Buffalo, but the Buffalo Bills. So so it seems like we probably get conflicting. We have conflicting trends coming in. Is New England ready to turn their season around? I don't think so. I think that they caught the Buffalo Bills sleeping. And is Miami as bad as they played last week? I don't think that they are. Even though I will take the the better defensive team. So with the win that you're talking about, it does make me lean towards the under. I think I saw the total at 47, and it looks like money's coming in on the under in that spot. Let me just check and make sure. That's that correct?
I do see it down to
46.5.
I thought this was like hovering around 47.5 throughout the week. It's at 46.5 right now.
Yeah, 46.5. So that makes me look towards maybe even a team. I think Miami is gonna come out and take this game extremely serious. We know it's a divisional game as well, and they're probably looking to bounce back, especially off the road loss. I don't believe in Mac Jones at all. So I agree. I think this is the spot where even with the win that you mentioned, I think maybe looking towards Tua Tagovailoa completion props, because one thing we know about Miami's offense, is they like to get the ball out quick, right?
Yep.
So if the wind's blowing, it's going to be hard and difficult to throw the ball down the field. But we can expect a lot of short plays. They got some of the fastest receivers in the league, of course, so they want to get the ball in those guys' hands and let them kind of make plays on the outside. So let's see what is that number for Tua Tagovailoa. Looking at his just his completions. I think that they can throw the ball down the, not down the field, but I think it's a lot of short passes. So I want to find a number for
23.5.
I like that number for him. I do like that number a lot. And also the other thing is, we know that Miami, New England.
Mm-hmm.
If I got to take their defense, and rank them, I'm definitely taking their rush defense over their pass defense. They really struggled in that department. So that would make me look towards Tua to go over his reception props, his completion props for today. What are you thinking?
I was just looking at some trends here for the Dolphins in the Mike McDaniel's era. A previous loss, so they lost the week before, and they're going back home. 5-0 to the under, averaging only 35 points per game. So I think that kind of correlates where maybe the money is coming in with some wind gusts coming in, that they take this game seriously. Defensively, they're going to be better as well. So just to repeat that, Dolphins, since Mike McDaniels got hired as a head coach for the Dolphins, they lost the previous week, and their next game is at home. They're 5-0 to the under, are the Miami Dolphins. But yeah, I agree about your play here with Tua. I think it might be short passes here to Jalen Waddle, obviously, with Tyreek Hill out there as well. So yeah, I like it, man. Maybe look at a Mac Jones interception prop. I think this might be a game where he does come back down to earth. You want to maybe buy that up to maybe 1.5, get some plus money. But I currently do see Mac Jones to throw an interception a little bit juicy right now, Chris, at -140. Shout out to the chat, man. I got my usual guys in there with us. TVDBJ, got Lane in there as well. Appreciate you guys joining us, man. If you guys have any player props or games that you guys want us to talk about, or anything in particular, drop in the chat. We'll do our best to get to it. All right, Chris, let's get over to the next game, man. Let's get over to your team, man. We got the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders facing off. I guess they're playing Maryland, if I'm not mistaken, in Landover there. But yeah, Commanders catching 7 points here in a division game here, Chris. 7-point underdogs are the Washington Commanders, total of 43.5. Let me see if I can dig up some injuries in this game for the Philadelphia Eagles. Bradley Roby, cornerback, is going to be out against the Commanders. Quez Watkins was put on the IR all the way back on October 14th. Other than that, pretty clean injury report for the Philadelphia Eagles. And then for the home team, the Washington Commanders / Redskins, whatever your heart desires to call them, Curtis Samuel is the only one that is questionable. He's a true game time decision for the Commanders in this game against the Eagles. Chris, I'm gonna let you rip and run with this one, man. Your team catching 7 points here against the Eagles. Anything you're looking on the side, total, or player props?
So first thing that sticks out, is that the Commanders are absolutely horrendous at home. We haven't won a game, and I am a Commanders fan, as you can tell by the hat, but I'm also a guy trying to make money. So I put my bias to the side. Not a team I typically bet. We did play the Eagles really, really tough a couple of weeks ago in Philadelphia, sending that game to overtime. Sending the game to did we end up losing that game in overtime? Or did it
against the Eagles? It was 34-31 into the overtime. Yeah,
right, because we didn't go for 2, which we should have went for 2, especially being on the road. So my apologies there. But looking at, this Eagles team, they kind of, they took last week serious. I expect them to take this divisional game here serious as well, especially given how close that last game was. So now you get them on the road, touchdown spot. This is a spot that the Commanders were in pretty much the second game of the season against the Buffalo Bills, and they got absolutely demolished in that spot. I also woke up to hearing news that the Commanders are shopping defensive linemen, Devontae Sweat, looking at Chase Young, putting them on the market. So to me, that tells me that I'm not sure what we're trying to do, because offensively we were really, really struggling team to be able to struggle to score the ball. So I think I know it's a divisional game. I know it's their road favorite. But I think Philly can win this game by 7, So I do lean towards them being able to win the game by 7 points here. I think the Commanders are going to struggle to score. And I think you always just got to look at it, especially if Philly has a healthy defense. You got to look towards the running back, who is Brian Robinson, to go under his rush prop. Yep. And the correlation is what our guy Rob talked about on Thursday when we did the podcast, which is taking Sam Howell to go over his pass attempts, because we do expect that Eagles defense to be flying around, putting a lot of pressure on the ball. The Commanders aren't really a great first down team, and what ends up happening is they end up throwing the ball a lot in the second half. So I like those 2 props more than anything. Looking at Brian Robinson to go under his rush yards, and looking at as Rob mentioned, looking at Sam Howell to go over And then also I know we've been picking on this Commanders secondary.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do as far as pass attempt over or completion, longest completion, for any of those guys on the Eagles side. But I'm pretty sure you're probably about to hit on that one, so I'll turn it back over to you.
I just want to mention AJ Brown. He's going for I believe the 6th straight 100-yard receiving game. Yeah, let's see here. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so he's already had 5 straight games of at least 100 receiving yards, going for his 6th straight here against the Commanders this week. He did break out in or in that last game, I should say, against the Commanders. 9 receptions, 175 yards, along a 59. And I want to see what his longest completion is for this week or this week, like you mentioned here, because I'm going to quickly read off what AJ Brown has done as far as longest reception over this stretch where he's had 5 straight 100+ receiving yard games. So right now it's at 29.5, and that's a big number for a reason. So I'm just going to quickly read these off over the last 5 weeks. 42, 49, 38, 59, and 28 have been his longest completion. So I think I talked about this on the propcast as well, is that a lot of times I was taking opposing quarterbacks that were going up against his Washington Commanders defense for their longest completion, for those quarterbacks to go over, because again, they're prone to giving up those long completions. But I think if you want to shrink it down, it's really 2 guys that are getting those long completions. It's going to be AJ Brown at 29.5. And if you want to look at Devontae Smith, 21.5 as well. So I really like those looks for this Eagles team. I'm on AJ Brown again this week to get over his receiving yards number. When I played this was at 89.5 for AJ Brown. It's still sitting there at 89.5. Maybe not a lot of value on him to get 100+ here. I'm trying to find that number. It's at plus 115, but if you want to ladder it up all the way to plus 120, 110+ is at plus 165, and then 120+ is at plus 230 for AJ Brown in this game here. Chris, anything else for this game?
I think it looked towards the under, I do expect Washington to struggle to be able to score the ball like they typically do. And if Dallas comes in here locked in, which I think that they will, I think we look towards the under in this game as well. Total I'm seeing right now for the game is 40. So it opened at 47. It's already down to 43. And I think the Commanders struggle to, maybe you just take a Commanders team total under, because I think they'll really struggle to score the ball here. 43.5 look like it's available on DraftKings right now.
Yep.
So I think, game stays under 43 points, absolutely. So that would be my look in this game as far as total.
All right, let's get over to the battle of the New York teams, quote unquote, battle in the Meadowlands. We got the Jets and the Giants squaring off at MetLife Stadium. Giants are going to be the home team in this game. Obviously, both of these teams play in the same stadium. The Giants are the classified home team. They are catching 3 points. Technically, like I mentioned, as the home underdog here. Jets favored by 3. Total sitting at 35 in this game. Looking at some of the injuries in this game, we'll start here with the New York Jets. Let's see here. Randall Cobb is questionable here today for the New York Jets. And that is pretty much the only significant injury for the New York Jets. Looking at it for the New York Giants, let's see here. I believe Andrew Thomas is back. No, he's again listed as doubtful. Darren Waller is also questionable. He is dealing with a hamstring injury. We already know Daniel Jones has been ruled out, so Tyrod Taylor will get his 3rd straight start for the New York Giants here. Looking at some of the weather in this game, I am seeing that it is going to be 76% light rain in this game and gusts of about 10 miles per hour. Nothing significant there, but again, we do expect light rain in this game against the Jets and the Giants. Chris, I had one play in this game here. I was going to go with the over on Tyrod Taylor's rush attempts, a 4.5. If you want to look at it that way, or if you also want to take his rushing yards to go over in this game, that number is currently sitting at 22.5. And I think I mentioned this on the propcast that I think every quarterback that the Jets have faced this season, they have rushed for at least 5 times. Except for one quarterback, which was Mac Jones a few weeks ago when they did match up. But every quarterback that has faced his Jets team has at least 5 or more rush attempts against the Jets. I did play the over 4.5 on Tyrod Taylor on that. And if you also want to maybe play his rushing yards over, I think he's gone over this number of 22.5 in both of the games that he has started this week. So that's where I'm looking at as far as player props. As far as side here, I'm leaning with the Jets here. I liked it at 2.5 where it was earlier this week. I think Breece Hall is going to have a great game on the ground for the New York Jets in this game. I expect the Jets to have a run-heavy attack in this game, going up against the Giants. But those were the kind of 2 player props I was looking at, and then leaning with the Jets at 2.5. Maybe it comes back down. I see a -3, -105 right now on DraftKings, so maybe you could get that around maybe -120 for that -2.5 for the Jets. But those were the looks I had in this game here, Chris. Anything you got?
Yeah, so I couldn't talk you off of yours, but I also like the other running back, Saquon, in this spot. I think his rush attempts should be good money today. You can get it at 17.5. It's actually plus money right now on Bet36 on BetMGM. I like that number, 17.5 rush attempts. I'm going through and just kind of, the Giants have kind of focused on trying to, run the ball a little bit more so that Tyrod doesn't have too much on his plate. Going back in the last 2 games, Buffalo, Washington, 24 attempts, 21 attempts. And then I also just looked at this Jets defense. Teams are running the ball a lot against the Jets. Opponent rushes per game is actually 30.8, which is actually second most in the league. So anything I'm playing this game, especially you mentioned the weather as well, if I'm playing anything in this game, I'm looking at Saquon to go over his rush attempts, especially at home. I think we see a low-scoring game. I don't think either one of these teams have to, from a game script perspective, I don't think either one of these teams are going to get out, and like have a 14-point lead so that the rush gets abandoned. So I couldn't talk you off taking Saquon over his 17.5 rush attempts,
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I think we saw it last week where Saquon came back and had a lot of success on the ground. I'm trying to pull up the exact numbers for Saquon. I think you already mentioned it, Chris, on his rush attempts. But last week, 21 attempts, 24 attempts, 17 against the Arizona Cardinals here as well. So definitely utilizing Saquon Barkley is Tyrod Taylor as well. So again, I think it's going to be, like we both mentioned, run-heavy attacks for both of these teams here this week, facing off in the Meadowlands at MetLife Stadium between the Jets and the Giants. Next game on the board here, Chris. Let's go over to Pittsburgh. Jacksonville Jaguars. They are visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers. Currently, this line sitting at 2.5 in favor of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Totals as 41 in this game. Pittsburgh last week, like we mentioned, went into LA, beat the Rams. Now they're catching points here at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think there's a lot of so weather in this game, 60% chance of light rain, gusts of 8 miles per hour, something of significance as of rain. Let's get over to the injury report for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's see what I can find here. So Trevor Lawrence, we know he was dealing with a knee injury. He played in that game last week against the New Orleans Saints, where a lot of people thought that he may not end up playing that game. But then he looked like Michael Vick out there, running all over the field. Was Trevor Lawrence, especially with the knee injury. He is on track to play this week, but he will be wearing a protective brace for that sprained left knee. Tyson Campbell, cornerback, is questionable ahead of this game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Walker Little, offensive tackle, is also questionable. Zay Jones has been ruled out for this game again as well. So look out for that on your fantasy teams. And then for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we saw Deontay Johnson come back for this team last week for the wide receiving group. Joey Porter Jr., cornerback, is officially questionable with a calf injury against his game at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then Cameron Hayward, defensive tackle, was designated to return from injured reserve for this for this Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I'm going to try to look up if he is actually going to be playing here today or not for the Pittsburgh Steelers here. But Chris, you have anything in this game that you liked?
Absolutely. So the first thing that comes to mind, is I think Jacksonville is so interesting. Jacksonville is by far the better team in my estimation. I know Pittsburgh went on the road last week and got the win, and maybe Pickett is turning it around, but I'm not willing to buy into that, especially against an elite defensive team like Jacksonville is. But I'm also not willing to fade, Mr. Tomlin at home as a dog. That's just something I'm not going to do. I went and looked at it. So since the start of the 2020 season, 6-3 straight up as a home dog, 6-1 against the spread, 75%. I'm not doing it. It's happened already this season, and it's nothing that you're ever going to be able to get me to put my hard-earned money on fading Tomlin at home. They beat the Ravens outright already this season. They beat the Browns outright already this season as dogs. So that makes me kind of look towards the under. I know the total opened at 41.5. It's down to 41. But I think the Jacksonville defense is going to be good in this game as well. You know, they typically show up on the road. They have more rest because they played last Thursday versus, having to play on Sunday. So I like that for them a lot. I know we talked about it on the propcast earlier this week. And one of my favorite props of the whole entire week is Kenny Pickett to go over his pass attempts. 32.5 was the number. I checked it. It was actually plus money this morning. Not sure what, like, as far as the big right now, but I think the number is still the same. And it's all because Jacksonville's defense is really, really good against the rush. They force you into passing the ball. And we know Pittsburgh doesn't really have a rush attack. You know, they rank 29th in rushing yards per carry, 28th in rushing yards per game. So I do expect Jacksonville defense to show up in this spot. And as long as Trevor Lawrence and that offense can take care of the ball, I think that they can squeeze this one out, But like I said, not enough to put my hard-earned money on it. But I think the under is in play in this game. And I think it's going to be a dogfight of a game. I think the under's in play, and I absolutely love Kenny Pickett to go over his 32.5 pass attempts.
Yeah, that number is conflicting at various books. Obviously, I do see that 31.5 on DraftKings, but it's juiced at -140, so it's pretty much 32.5 for Kenny Pickett on his pass attempts. I actually like the Steelers here, man. I'm not sure that Jacksonville should be a 2.5-point favorite. I was thinking this game might have been closer to like a -1 in favor of Jacksonville, and I get it, right? Take a look at the situation with Pittsburgh traveling from LA back home, Jacksonville Jaguars with extended rest here, but it also mentioned Mike Tomlin as an underdog. He's done very well in that role as well. I actually took an alt spread, man. I think Pittsburgh can win by a field goal here, so I took the -2.5 at around +135 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this must be going to be a game where I think the Jacksonville Jaguars, their offense struggles a little bit, something similar to what we saw when they played Kansas City Chiefs at home a few weeks ago. But like you mentioned, I think this is going to be a dogfight, but I think it's also going to be on the shoulders of Kenny Pickett to lead this team to a victory here. And I think that if Najee Harris can be effective, Jalen Warren, who's been pretty good for this team to start the season, I think it's really have to be on those two guys to produce the offensive production. Christian mentioned the total that currently is sitting at 40.5 in this game, so I definitely lean with the under in that contest here as well. Getting over to the next game here, got my Houston Texans. They are headed to the winless Carolina Panthers. Currently, the Texans are a 3.5-point road favorite here. Total is sitting at 43.5. For the Texans, Robert Woods is going to be out for at least 2 to 3 weeks. He's dealing with a foot injury. But they do get Tank Dell back this week, so one wide receiver comes back, one gets injured for the Houston Texans. Other injuries that they are dealing with here. Sheldon Rankins, defensive tackle, has been ruled out in this game here as well for against the Panthers, I should say. And then Brevin Jordan, tight end, has also been ruled out in this contest for the Texans. Texans coming off a bye week. Let's go over to the Carolina side here. So Xavier Woods, safety, is listed as questionable. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. Von Bell, safety, has been ruled out as well. He has a quadriceps injury. Frankie Luvu, he is dealing with a hip injury, also listed as questionable. Brian Burns, also listed as questionable. A lot of injuries here for the Carolina Panthers on the defensive side of the football. And also Laviska Shenault, wide receiver, has been ruled out with an ankle injury. I'm going to try to look up the latest injury news for the Carolina Panthers here. But, Chris, I think it's kind of telling for me, number one, that the Texans are favored on the road here against a winless team. That makes sense. But this number at 3.5, you usually see when a number gets outside of that field goal of -3 and gets to 3.5, there's usually some buyback from some of the sharper bettors. But that number is still hovering around 3.5. So it's kind of telling me where some of these, I guess, the bettors are thinking where this team is right now. But Texans laying 3.5 right now on the road, man. What do you think?
Man, I can't put any stock into Carolina. I typically like to back teams off a bye week because they did have a bye week. But like you mentioned, man, they still beat up on the defensive end, right? Like on the defensive side of the ball, and that's where they struggle at the most. They actually allowing the most points per game on the season. You just look at this defense. It's been putrid, and a lot of it is because they have to be on the field so much. Because Bryce Young is such a new quarterback, and he's kind of figuring it out. But they're giving up 31 points per game, which is pretty much last in the league. They're allowing almost 350 yards per game, which is bottom bottom of the league as well. So crazy as it seems, you definitely know that teams don't play as well on the road. But I think the Texans are the right side in this game as well, man. Just based on the injuries. Player prop wise, I'm not really. I don't. Excuse me. I don't see a lot that I want to take in this game. But I do feel like like you said, sharper bet is not even buying back on this. Carolina even off a bye, so it does kind of give me some confidence. If I was going to play this game, I'd be playing the -3.5 with your Houston Texans here.
Yeah, but nothing I really loved in this game either. I mean, maybe I want to go back to Tank Dell, or maybe just even Nico Collins. Nico Collins has just been so good for this Texans team, emerging as the number one wide receiver. 57.5 is his number. I mean, do we get away from Adam Thielen in this game, Chris? I mean, he's just been a monster. He's been the number one receiver for this Carolina Panthers team, and he's been putting up production. I know that the number has finally adjusted for Adam Thielen. That number for his receptions is up to 5.5 now at -160. But his receiving yards number is sitting at 67.5. That's something I don't hate for Adam Thielen. I know the area that the Texans do struggle is in the secondary. And if you take a look over the last 3 weeks for Adam Thielen, he's gone over 100 plus receiving yards in 3 of the last 4 weeks. Last 3 weeks, or last 4 weeks, 11 receptions, 7, 11, and 11. So, again, I think that he has emerged, obviously, as a number one wide receiver. I mean, for the DGens, like we do have at SGPN, if you want to take his receptions all the way up to 10 plus, take his receiving yards all the way up to 100 plus, maybe put together a nice parlay there. I think that's definitely a possibility here for Adam Thielen because he's been a monster for this team. All right, let's get over to the next game here, Chris. Let's go over to a battle of the NFC North teams, Minnesota Vikings. They are visiting the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field this week. Currently sitting as the Vikings are a 1-point favorite, total of 41.5. Packers last week went into Denver and lost that game. I think that was last week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And then the Minnesota Vikings are coming off of a victory as well last week, if I'm not mistaken. I should double check this before we got on here.
Yeah, no, you're right. They beat San Francisco on Monday Night Football. Remember?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, Minnesota coming off the victory on, was it Monday Night Football, if I'm not mistaken here, Chris? For the Minnesota Vikings.
Monday night. Monday night. Yep.
Yeah. There we go. All right. So currently, as it stands, the Vikings are a very slight 1-point favorite here. Anything that you like in this game as far as side total player props?
So as far as the side, Green Bay has been putrid, man. I think Jordan Love has just not been it. They can't score the ball, And I know, you look at the Green Bay, not the Green Bay, the Minnesota defense, and we were kind of picking on them earlier in the season, but they showed up last week at home. Can this defense actually travel? Pack it up and travel to Green Bay, or does Green Bay kind of get back into the win column? Green Bay's been putrid lately as well. Before the bye week, they had lost again as well, and they didn't look any better. That when you struggle against the Denver Broncos, that it's kind of telling. But now they are back home. I think the line moving, is a tad bit interesting to me, just because Green Bay did open up as a 1.5-point favorite, and now Minnesota has moved to a road favorite. And the total in this one is dropped. I do agree with that line moving from 45.5 all the way down to 41. 42 is available right now as well. So if I had to play this one, I think I close my eyes, bet Minnesota on the money line, and try and hope that they can sneak out a win. I don't like that they don't have Justin Jefferson for the foreseeable future, but I do think they can kind of take some of that momentum from the win on Monday Night Football and go into Green Bay and I think Kirk Cousins can outduel Jordan Love, especially if Minnesota can limit the turnovers, because that's one thing that's really been kind of eye-catching for me is they just turn the ball over so much. But Green Bay does as well, right? Jordan Love can go out there and throw a couple interceptions as well. So Minnesota money line, would be my strongest look in this game, especially with the total dropping 4 or 5 points already.
Yeah, I think that I think this might be the right side. Is going to be the Green Bay Packers. Might be feel like a buy low situation for the Packers here, being back at home. Minnesota coming off of a huge Monday night victory against one of the best teams in the NFC overall. So they may be coming a little flat here into Green Bay, where it does feel like it's 36 degrees right now out there at Lambeau Field. So definitely something to keep in mind. I didn't really have anything as far as player props in this game. Maybe look at Aaron Jones receptions again. I know I barely got to the window with that one last week. I should have mentioned the injury report for both these games, or sorry, teams as well. But yeah, I didn't really love too much in this game. This was one of the games that was a stay away from me. Trying to find Aaron Jones receptions here before we move on. That 2.5 minus 115. I don't hate that number. But I think this is an opportunity for Aaron Jones to really excel at home, especially at Lambeau Field, where I do like backing him. All right, let's get over to the next game here, Chris. Let's go over to let's go to Saints and the Colts here, man. Currently, this line is sitting in favor of the Colts at -1. They are going to be in Indy. Saints are now -2 in Indy here. Total 43.5. Obviously, no significant or nothing as far as the weather because they do play in a dome. So I can find some injuries here for the Saints. Let's see, where are the Saints? Saints here. Let's see them get to their injury report. Give me a second here. All right, injuries. All right, so for the Saints going into this game, so Taysom Hill is questionable, but he is expected to suit up for the New Orleans Saints. Michael Thomas also questionable due to an illness. Jimmy Graham illness. So maybe there seems like there's a little bug going around in the Saints locker room because I have a lot of guys on this injury report that are dealing with an illness. Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, officially listed as questionable. He is dealing with a foot injury. Demario Davis, linebacker, knee injury is also questionable to suit up here against the Colts. For the Colts side, Zach Moss is a true game time decision. He's going to see how he feels when he warms up. So if you do have Zach Moss or even Jonathan Taylor on your fantasy teams, keep that in mind because Zach Moss will try to warm up. He's dealing with the elbow and a heel injury. But that is the only really significant injury on the side of the Indianapolis Colts. Chris, did you have anything for this game, side total or player props?
I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me, and I would probably wait until Zach Moss gets in because I would want him to be a part of this, would be the total. I see it up from 41. It's up to 43.5. I think I would play, if I'm playing anything in this game, I want to play the over in this game. You mentioned the injuries on the Saints, specifically in that secondary. And that's their strongest suit, right? We know that the Saints have been really kind of struggling to score, but I think that they should be able to here against a Colts team that's really, not really stopping anybody. In the Colts home games, they're giving up an average of 28.8 points per game in 3 games. They're 3-1 to the over. Those games are going over by a touchdown, a field goal, and some. 11.5 points is what the total has been going over with. And all of the totals have been very, very similar to what we see on the board tonight. 45.5 in week 1 against Jacksonville. That total flew over. You look at week 2, they gave up and maybe it's just the opposing team total, maybe, but it's both. Both teams are really kind of score. I think the books have kind of they've kind of, it's been a buy low spot on Gardner Minshew in this offense, right? And if you get Zach Moss back, I do think that just the way that the pace that they've been playing with. So it would be the total for me for this one. It seemed like a pretty low total, 43.5. I would take the over. I think both teams can put up points in the spot, but no look on any player props. The Colts are not a team I typically like to back as far as player props, and definitely not anything on the Saints side. I did see, didn't Chris Olave end up getting some trouble this week?
Yeah, there was apparently a video that transpired about him getting pulled over. I think it was for speeding or something like that. And he dropped the card of, "Hey, I play for the Saints." I don't know if that worked for him or not, but I'm trying to see if he is. I mean, I don't see him on the injury report, so nothing's. I guess maybe they're still gathering information or the case might be. He got arrested on Monday night on suspicion of reckless operation of a motor vehicle as official classification. question, but I don't see anything about him being ruled out for this game, because I need to make a note of that, because again, he is on one of my fantasy teams, but I don't see anything. I don't know. Maybe the chat can help us out if they see Chris Olave is supposed to be is expected to miss this game or not. But yeah, I'm with you. I didn't really like anything, but I think that's a great point that you bring up about the over in this game, especially in Indy, where 3 out of 4 home games thus far have gone over the total. I think the only one that didn't was against the game against Tennessee in week 5 for the Colts, 23-16 final there. But last week, it turned to an absolute shootout, 39-38 against a Browns defense that is supposed to be one of the best in the league. And lo and behold, the Colts and Gardner Minshew go out there and put up a 38 points against the Cleveland Browns in that game. All right, Chris, let's get over to the last game of the morning schedule. We have the Atlanta Falcons. They are in Tennessee. Tennessee catching 2.5 points here. Total of 35. I heard the rumors all week about Derrick Henry possibly being on the move. I think yesterday the front office of the Titans came out and said that we're not moving either DeAndre Hopkins or Derrick Henry, which usually probably means they are on the move here for both of those two players. Looking at the injury report here, I'll start here with the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons are currently, let me see here, as far as injuries go. So last week we had the whole debacle with Bijan Robinson, with, I guess, wasn't feeling well, and I guess that injury wasn't really disclosed or whatever the case might have been. He was in there for one snap, and whoever bet his overs got absolutely pummeled. I think we talked about this on the podcast, but his production has been down. I think, Chris, you're on Bijan Robinson this week, if I'm not mistaken. But let me quickly get to the Tennessee injury report, and then I'll kick it over here to you. Nothing of significance. Obviously, we know that Ryan Tannehill is going to be out for this game, and Coach Mike Vrabel came out and said that we might be running, or they will be running, a 2-quarterback system here with Will Levis and Malik Willis. So do with that information whatever you want. But Arthur Smith returning back to Tennessee here, where he was the offensive coordinator. But Chris, I know you mentioned you'd like the under for Bijan this week.
Absolutely, I think I need one of those guys or both of those guys to just kind of be able to orchestrate some kind of offense, so that Bijan's not on the field, a lot in this game. But Tennessee, you look at them at home, they're a pretty good defensive team. Teams are not really rushing the ball too much against them, giving up just 66 rushing yards per game in their home games, this season. You look at them as a dog, they're giving up 83 rushing yards, but at home specifically is where I like to target the Tennessee Titans. Also, just not a lot of points. You look at them as a dog, 17.6 points per game is what they're averaging, and they're giving up 18.8 points per game. We know that Desmond Ridder is not somebody that's going to really kill us, with the air attack. So I think I know I talked about Bijan Robinson. The number for Bijan right now is I had it up, but I think it went away. His rush plus receiving yards is what I took the under on. I got it at 80. And right now that number is, I don't even see it. Oh, well, it's not changing. I don't even see it. See if you can find that for me. But anyway, yeah. The other one I wanted to talk about was Desmond Ridder, just because I do believe in Tennessee's rush defense. I think that they make Desmond Ridder one-dimensional. And that's what they've been doing, at home, what they've been doing as a dog as well. I know that I gave this prop out on the Propcast as well. One of my favorite plays today, Desmond Ridder over his 29.5 pass attempts. It was plus 100 on DK. So I like that you can get it at even money as well. And just to kind of, give people give our viewers some insight on that. If you go back and you just look at this Tennessee defense, when they're a dog, teams are passing the ball 33.4% of the time. When they're at home, teams are passing the ball 35.5 times. And of course, this has happened twice so far this season. So I do think that, the Falcons are going to be one-dimensional. And it's one of the reasons why I like Bijan to go under. Tennessee also just does a really good job against running backs in general, whether they're pass-catching running backs, which Bijan is, or they're the Russian running backs as well. So give me Bijan to go under. Like I said, I'm still kind of looking for that number.
82.5.
82.5. So it actually went up. I got it at 80.5. And definitely give me my favorite one, Desmond Ridder, over his pass attempts, which was 29.5. I like both of those a lot in this one.
Yeah, I can't argue against it. Like, I think a lot of the guys in the chat are expecting this to be a under type of game, as well as run heavy. I think that you'll see a lot of Derrick Henry, you'll see a lot of Tajay Spears, at least for the Tennessee side. Let me just see how Arthur Smith is maybe able to attack this defense because he was there for so many years. I don't think things changed over the last 2 seasons for the Tennessee Titans, but we shall see how that transpires. All right, Chris, let's rapid fire through the afternoon games here. Let's go with the Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. This is going to be an absolute snowstorm. I don't know if some of you guys have seen the videos of what's going on in Denver right now as far as the weather. Snow showers. It said to stop before kickoff, but it's going to feel like 21 out there in Denver for this game. The only player prop I had in this game was going to be Isaiah Pacheco over 15.5 receiving yards. I think I mentioned this obviously on the propcast as well. In 3 career games, he's gone over this number in all 3 career games against the Denver Broncos, but you also take a look at what running backs are doing against the Denver Broncos pass defense, I should say. Running backs are averaging 55 yards per game through the air and averaging 6.71 assists. 6.71 receptions are those teams against the Denver Broncos. So I took Isaiah Pacheco over on his receiving yards, 15.5. I thought it was a really conservative number. I left that all the way up to around 20.5, but 15.5, I'll take that up all day. Far side in total, I don't know what I'm going to expect with that snow. I'm staying away from the total. Lean towards the Kansas City Chiefs in this spot here. Want to see if Taylor Swift is in attendance. If she is, I will be taking over on Travis Kelce. But that's where I'm at for this game here, Chris.
Yeah, if you said rapid fire, we can go ahead and keep going because you mentioned the only thing I was going to mention is the Swifty going to show up for the Kelce? And if she does, you take his receiving prop over, whether it's yards, whether it's receptions. And if she doesn't, then play is under because he might take the week off as well. From a productivity standpoint, we can keep it moving. I'm not interested in the snowstorm game either.
We got the Cleveland Browns coming off of that 1-point victory, like we mentioned, against the Colts, 39-38. They are headed to the Northwest to take on the Seattle Seahawks. Currently, the Seahawks are a 4-point favorite in this game. Total is sitting at 37.5. 2 plays I did like in this game here, Chris. I do like the under in this game. I think we'll kind of go back to seeing Cleveland Browns playing Cleveland Browns defense. I think last against the Colts was probably just an outlier. Weather wasn't a factor there. You're playing in a dome. You're on a fast track. So I think that's what kind of maybe led to a lot of points in that game. As far as weather, nothing really of significance, 14 miles per hour in this game. So I do like the under 37.5. And I did take a look at Geno Smith under on his completions. That number is sitting at it was 20 on underdog, but let me see if I can find it here on DraftKings for his completions. It's 20.5 minus 140 to the under, but I'm willing to lay this juice. The Cleveland Browns defense hasn't allowed a single quarterback to have more than 15 completions this season. When I saw that, Chris, I had to do a double take. I had to refresh my page because that's something that's kind of unheard of. No quarterback that has faced the Cleveland Browns this season has more than 15 completions. So I think this might be a week. Again, we'll see where Jim Schwartz and his defense is getting back to playing defense like they're one of the best defenses in the league. So I'm expecting a down week from this week, at least from Geno Smith. So under in the game and then under on Geno Smith completions of 20.5.
Yeah, my strongest look here would be towards the under as well. I just think the Browns bounce back, right? They gave up the Indianapolis Colts hit their team total in the first half last week. That was not on anyone's bingo card, even though they were on the road. So my strongest play would be on the under in this game. Don't really like the player props at all. I do think that if Cleveland is going to be successful, then they're probably going to have to, like get the ball moving throughout the air. But I don't know how much I trust Walker yet, So while I lean towards, a couple of those guys for the Cleveland Browns to go over on their receiving yards, because the Seattle's rush defense has been so good, I'm not quite sure I want to pull the trigger, but I will be looking towards, maybe one of Cleveland's wide receivers to go over their receiving yards. That's the only way I'll be able to look in this game. But the under, I think is the better play.
Yeah, I took Amari last week. I think I got. I don't know. Was it last week or the week prior? I took Amari Cooper. Usually been pretty consistent for the Cleveland Browns, especially when Deshaun Watson's the quarterback back there. I think those two have developed some type of rapport and chemistry. But with PJ Walker, I'm not sure what I'm going to get out of him, especially number one, being on the road in Seattle. I think this just being a defensive-minded game. So I think that was the only one I was looking at was under on Geno Smith. And again, I think we're both in agreement about the under on the full game here. Next game on the board here, let's go over to the Bay Area. We've got the San Francisco 49ers. They are hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Currently, the Niners are a 4-point favorite here. Total at 43.5. Sam Darnold is getting the start here in place. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Brock Purdy was supposed to be out for this game, but I believe Brock Purdy got cleared to play in this game here. I'm going to double check that. Because I think I saw yesterday or Friday that he got cleared. Yeah, so there's no designated injury for Brock Purdy against the Bengals. So it looks like he will be playing in this game against the Cincinnati Bengals. -4, the number did come down. I believe it was at -5. I think the number has come down to -4. But Chris, what do you like in this game as far as side total or player props?
Yeah, I saw that 6, and the money's come in on Cincinnati in this spot. Cincinnati has looked good in the last couple of weeks, and I think in a bounce back spot for San Francisco, they should play a little bit better. But there are still some injury implications for the 49ers, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like don't we
for
may
the
not
Niners?
be for the Niners, right? We may not see Debo in this game. Is that correct? I feel like Debo.
Yeah, so Debo's going to be out.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's out. He was out last week, obviously. He's out this week, and I think he might be out next week as well, if I'm not mistaken. Also, Trent Williams, I should mention as well, offensive tackle is listed questionable for the Niners.
So I think Cincinnati's the right play in this one. I think defensively they've been kind of coming around. I would take them plus the points. It still hasn't reached that key number of 3, so I think they should be able to keep this one close, potentially. Still one. I think San Francisco's offense may struggle just with Brock Purdy, being limited in practice and going through concussion protocol. And the Cincinnati's the healthier team. I think they have more to play for as well. Even though San Francisco will be looking to bounce back, I know it's probably not the sexiest play on the board. San Francisco, it'll be their first game at home in a month, because they had 3 straight road games in a row. So, I still kind of feel like Cincinnati, plus the points would be the right spot as long as you can get them under the field goal, because I think they keep this one close.
Yeah, I think it's a little square for me, but I just played Christian McCaffrey over on his rushing yards. Cincinnati still has one of the worst rush defenses in the entire league, right down there with the Denver Broncos. Again, like you mentioned, if Brock Purdy, who was in concussion protocol, that did get cleared, didn't get a lot of practice in, I think it's going to be turn around, hand the ball off for Christian McCaffrey, see what he can do. So if you want to look at his rush attempts to go over, rushing yards to go over, I got that at 73.5. That number's up to 74.5 right now. But that was my only look in this game. Let's go over to Arizona here. Chris, we got the Baltimore Ravens. They are in Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Cardinals currently sitting at I think this was outside of, I know a field goal at minimum. This was the only game I don't remember what the line was for here. 9.5 right now for the
10, 9.5.
It's up to 10 now.
Yep.
Yeah, I see a 9.5 on DraftKings. Some books have it up at 10. Total at 45 in this game here. Ravens last week got the victory in a convincing fashion against the Lions at home. Cardinals, I believe, are coming off of a loss. I think they were in Arizona last week, point loss there. Now they welcome the Baltimore Ravens to town. The only play I had in this game, Gus Edwards, Gus the Bus, I took the over on his rushing yards. Talk about some of the bad defenses as far as on the ground. We mentioned it with the Cincinnati Bengals, with the Denver Broncos. I took it here with the Arizona Cardinals fit into that mold as well. So took Gus Edwards. He's also getting the attempts as well. I know, right? Because a lot of times we talk about this Baltimore Ravens team that it's sometimes running back by committee, whether it's Justice Hill, the guys that are healthy right now, Gus Edwards and Lamar Jackson, obviously, but take a look at the attempts that Gus Edwards has gone over the past couple of weeks, especially in the month of October. 15, 12, 16, and 14 for Gus the Bus. So If he gets anywhere near 14 carries in this game, I think he'll fly over this number of, I think it was like 57.5 in this game. But that was my only look in this game here, Chris. Anything you like as far as side total or prop?
Total, I noted it's going up. It opened at 40, what did I see? 43.5. It's up to 45.
Yeah.
I actually like the under.
Okay.
I just, whenever I see a road favorite, having laying a touchdown and a field goal, typically those are not spots that you want to back a lot of points, because it just doesn't bode well. I think we saw this with Buffalo, against the Giants a couple weeks ago. We also saw this with the San Francisco 49ers as well earlier this season. So I went and did some digging, in that spot. You look at road favorites laying double digits or more since the 2018 season. So just going back about 5 years, 6-2 to the under. Those games are staying under by more than a field goal. So I do think that, the Cardinals will struggle offensively here. We also saw, Baltimore score a bunch of points in the last week. So maybe a little bit of regression, even though, Arizona isn't the greatest defensive team. But I do think the Cardinals will also struggle in this spot as well. So I'm playing the under. Under 45 is probably the one I feel most confident with. Could not talk you off Gus Edwards at all. If I like that look a lot. We know that Cardinals, defense is really, really struggling against the run. And, Harbaugh is going to continue to run the ball no matter what. So I love that look from you. And I'm going to be on the under in this game, under 45.
All right. Let's get over to, I think that's it for the afternoon slate. Let's get over to no, I forgot. No, we did. Yeah, we did Browns and Seahawks. Sunday night game, Bears and Chargers. Chargers right now laying 9.5 at home. 46 is the total. Not laying 9.5 with Justin Herbert and this offense at all. I'm not going to do it. Player props will definitely be intriguing, at least offensively, for the Los Angeles Chargers here. Maybe look at Justin Herbert to go over on his passing yards, because there's a prime matchup for him to break out is probably against this secondary of the Chicago Bears. I think Keenan Allen should be primed to have a big game here as well. When you look at his his receiving yards or his receptions. Chris, anything you like as far as side total or player props in this game?
Man, we talked about this one on the show. Touchdown wise, I do think Keenan Allen will get there. I know you talked about Josh Palmer. And like you said, breakout game. Chicago Bears on the road, especially off a win. You look at the Chargers; they've been really struggling. But like you said, this could be the spot. So I think first half spread, because I do think they jump on them early. Especially with what's the quarterback name for the Chicago Bears? That's getting
Tyson.
What is it?
Tyson something. Tyson bag, something like that.
I know it's only his second or third start. So, on the West Coast, traveling across country, I think this is absolute, big spot. I know when we did the game earlier this week, I think they were only laying 8.5 in that spot. And now you see it almost up to double digits. I think Chicago is going to really struggle to score. And I also think, like we talked about earlier this week, I think that the Chargers defense is going to look great in this spot. If this is a spot that you really want to buy on the Chargers defense, that's been kind of lackadaisical, in certain weeks. So I think that they struggle. I'm not laying the 9.5 like you said, but I do think first half they should be able to get there, be up by a touchdown, heading into intermission.
I think if you want to back Chargers somehow in this game, maybe look at their team total to go over. Trying to see what Chicago Bears have given up on the road thus far this season. So they gave up 27 to the Buccaneers, 41 to the Chiefs, 20 in that Thursday night football game to the Commanders. I'm not going to take a lot away from that. I'll be curious to see what the team total is for the Chargers in this game. Anything under 4 touchdowns or 27.5 in that range, I'd be looking at the over in this game. Maybe that's a way to attack if you want to back the Chargers here. But yeah, all right, that was the last game on the board here. I know the fantasy guys are going to kick off here after us. But Chris, let's put together a kind of a touchdown scorer parlay for the DGens for SGPN. I know you mentioned Keenan Allen to find the end zone, so I already started the parlay with that. Any other guy that you'd like to find the end zone here this week?
Give me Tony Pollard. I think he's going to be the guy for Dallas, even though I took his rush yards to go over. I do think that, Dallas is going to have to score, and they probably going to score a rushing touchdown more so than passing touchdowns from Dak Prescott. So definitely give me Tony Pollard to get in the end zone this week. Really like him a lot in this spot. You want to go back and forth, or how you want to do it?
Yeah, go for it. You got. I'll throw one out there here. Derrick Henry being at plus 160, man. I mean, what are we doing here? I yeah, I'm done. I'm not gonna second. I'm not gonna overthink it. I'm gonna add Derrick Henry in there plus 160 here, Chris. What else do you like?
So going back to that Chargers game, I know I talked about Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
So maybe not a parlay, but you can play it straight. I do think the Chargers defense picks a sack strip fumble, or you just look at them to get an interception off this rookie on the road. I think it's his first road game as well. Different time zone. So really like him to be able to score this week also.
I'll throw one more out there. I think let's go over to the Saints and Colts game. Give me Josh Downs, man. He's been a machine for the Colts, especially since Gardner Minshew took over as quarterback. I think TVDBJ mentioned it in the chat that he's looking for Josh Downs. And I think that 3-1, there's some pretty good value on that, especially in a game we may think that it may be some points being scored in this game. 3-1, I like that. So that gets us up all the way to 82-1. Anybody else that you like here, Chris? For touchdown score?
Let's take your guy. I know you're not on him this week, but I think TJ Hockenson. I just look at this Minnesota offense, and I'm not sure how they're going to score the ball this week. It's been pretty bad as far as them being able to rush the ball. And I think Kurt is at least due for one. Outside of Addison, I do expect Hockenson to get a lot of those receptions, and I don't think that he scored last week, so I think it could be a touchdown scoring week for your boy TJ Hockenson. I know you've been kind of high on him. They don't have Justin Jefferson, so yeah, throw TJ Hockenson in there as well. I want to say right now, best odds for TJ is plus 180 over on FanDuel.
Okay. All right. So the parlay I put together on DraftKings: Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry, Chargers defense, Josh Downs, and TJ Hockenson. Just to get a little bit spicy here this week, I took Keenan Allen out and put the Chargers defense in there 4-1. That's going to get you 216-1 if all five of those guys and defense finds the end zone. So hey, maybe a little birthday parlay from Chris here for this weekend. 216-1 on that touchdown parlay. So that's Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry, Chargers defense, TJ Hockenson, and then Josh Downs to find the end zone. 216-1. All right, Chris, that is going to wrap it up for this pregame show here, man. Anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Nah, man. Just enjoy the games, bet responsibly, like we always talk about, and hopefully we make more money than we lose. So it's a profitable day, man. Best of luck to everyone today. Check me out on Twitter or X, whatever you guys want to call it, at Crispy Captain 2 P's 2 N's, NFL stuff, NBA stuff as we ramp up for the season as well, And like I said, man, everybody have a great day. Let's cash.
Last one before we get out of here. Me and Lanta usually do the disgruntled wide receiver of the week. We've been treating pretty well with this. I know TVDB, they just mentioned it, so thanks for the great reminder. He said Michael Pittman did come out and say that he's not happy with his usage. So take the over receptions, ladder it up all the way up to 100 for Michael Pittman. I think we're 5 for 5 on that trend here this season. So let's go Michael Pittman over on his receiving yards and over on his receptions here in this game against the New Orleans Saints. All right, we'll be back next week for the pregame show again, all throughout the week for the NFL Gambling Podcast. Make sure you guys head over to the Fantasy Football Guys. They got all your fantasy football questions answered for this week. Start, sit, all that fun stuff. So again, get over there, give those guys some support. Again, before you guys get out of here, hit that like button for us, and we will talk to you guys next week. Enjoy the games. Good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and let it ride.